Thank you very much, Chairman Collins, and I've tried to abridge my statement slightly. Would request the entire statement made part of the record.
Without objection.
We have had the pleasure of working together many years, and through your leadership, in spite of difficult and challenging budgetary climates, you have been able to advance the nation's transportation and housing infrastructure, and I appreciate your leadership and thank you for it, Madam Chairman. Let me welcome Secretary Carson. Mr. Secretary, thank you for being here today. Since the passage of the Bipartisan Budget Act of 2018, we have provided nearly $15 billion for housing and related infrastructure programs, including $2.6 billion in new resources for affordable housing construction for the home program, $6.6 billion for the popular bipartisan Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG program, and more than $5.5 billion for capital reinvestment in our nation's public housing stock. These combined investments get us closer to the goal of providing safe, decent, affordable housing for our country's most economically vulnerable. And as I mentioned in our hearing last week with Secretary Chow, we face yet another year where we are constrained by the caps established in the Budget Control Act, which makes our job of achieving these goals that much harder. We have to work across the aisle to get common sense relief from these arbitrary one-size-fits-all spending limits. Today, you are here, Mr. Secretary, to discuss the fiscal year 2020 budget request for the Department of Housing and Urban Development. As with the prior two budget requests, the administration makes minimal investment to preserve our nation's affordable housing or ensure protections for more than 5 million low-income households served through HUD's rental assistance program and the additional 550,000 individuals experiencing homelessness. The administration's budget request for HUD is $44 billion, an astounding $9.7 billion cut in discretionary funding from fiscal year 2019. Much of this decrease is the result of a flawed attempt to shift existing public housing units to the private sector. The budget request incentivizes public housing agencies to demolish this much-needed affordable housing without a requirement to rebuild or replace. Any proposal that exacerbates our affordable housing crisis is, I believe, a non-starter. These unrealistically harsh funding levels are also accomplished by eliminating the very same programs local governments leverage to meet their unique housing and local infrastructure needs, the CBGG and the home programs. This budget also reflects a less than healthy FHA fund and a shrinking share of Ginnie Mae receipts and collections, both of which are fundamental to the funding of HUD's core mission programs. This is particularly concerning in light of the fact that the administration announced last week its intention to pursue housing finance reform, which will require your agency to submit a plan to reform the critical roles played by FHA and Ginnie Mae in helping our neighbors, including veterans and farmers, to responsibly own their homes. While the administration claims that sustainable home ownership is the benchmark of success for comprehensive reforms to government housing programs, questionable FHA and Ginnie Mae projections appear to suggest that even these hopeful words may ring hollow, and I hope this is not the case. At a minimum, housing finance reform must responsibly meet the needs of working families, small lenders, consumers, and the civil rights communities, while also ensuring that FHA and Ginnie Mae responsibly continue to support HUD's ability to meet its core mission in both the rental and home ownership markets. While I'm pleased that the budget includes a modest amount to sustain the funding for homeless assistance through the Continuum of Care program, it unfortunately decreases targeted resources for emergency solution grants and overlooks necessary investments for youth and veterans experiencing homelessness, as well as victims of domestic violence. Instead, it continues to impose rent reforms and proposes to institute mandatory work requirements for workable households. These rent reforms have been proposed and rejected by the authorizing committees multiple times. Further, work requirements have proven to be costly and ineffective. Overall, what we have in front of us today is a request that I believe lacks the necessary compassion and true understanding of the needs of the country. This budget cuts corners to reduce the footprint of affordable housing. It compromises the physical condition and safety of our existing housing stock, and it places unreasonable financial burdens on the already working poor. Mr. Secretary, you're here today to help us understand this request and how it might actually further HUD's mission without reversing the strategic progress we have been able to make through our work on this subcommittee and through the Chairman's leadership. I look forward to hearing your testimony, and I thank you, Chairman Collins.
Thank you very much.